Welcome back to Dark Nexus. Tonight, it's Act 3, Chapter 136. It is the Night of the Pale, the last day of the year, the 31st of Chthona. The Night of the Pale is a fascinating holiday in Golarion. On this night, it is believed that the ghosts of those who died during the previous year manifest in the homes they lived in during life. And though some might consider the chance of seeing the shade of a dearly departed loved one to be a blessing, the Night of the Pale is typically not a time for happy reunions. For these ghosts, according to tradition, do not return this night out of love for those they left behind, but out of darker compulsions. Lingering jealousies, unfinished arguments, a simmering need for revenge. These are just some of the reasons said to compel the dead to appear on the Night of the Pale. Now, this holiday is celebrated in many communities around Avestan by a feast. The food sometimes even prepared with a graveyard theme. This feast helps folks make some light of their fears while sharing good company with similarly nervous neighbors, spreading a little bit of light and warmth out into the world, hopefully placating the recently departed a little bit. And then the feast typically ends early enough to give the participants time to return home and decorate their doors and windows with salt to ward off evil spirits, of course, and then to cower in their bedrooms until dawn. Also, every Night of the Pale, there are stories of disappearances, often those caught out after midnight, though whether these vanishings are the result of maybe folks taking the opportunity to run away from home, or the result of wild animals or other mundane dangers, or vengeful spirits carrying off their victims, well, the truth of each story depends upon the circumstances. It is an interesting holiday, rather a melancholy holiday, sort of a New Year's Eve meets Halloween meets Dia de los Muertos meets, frankly, a wake. So Johnny called my attention to it a while back. Thank you, Johnny. And I couldn't get it out of my head, so we're doing it. I mean, the Night of the Pale is a night of communion, so of course the holiday is observed on the Sellen Starling. Halflings, as a rule, love an opportunity to gather and to eat. And after a year as unusual and as unusually filled with death as this year has been, this crew wouldn't miss the opportunity for the world. So, to get us right into the festivities, I'm going to move us up to nightfall. And after another day of rest, recovery, and no adventuring, and another block of therapy, I'm picturing with Dora instead of Stasi today, and another lesser restoration, by the time we hit the tail end of the second shift, the last full shift of 4718, by the time night falls and the crew has gathered after this long, rough week, Vic is at 0 sanity damage.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Everyone's recently obtained madnesses are dormant. Nobody's fully cured yet, but everyone is feeling so much better than when they last stepped out of the Dreamlands almost a week ago. And how did Gripper do in his shift?
Solid 13.
Perfect. So, knowing that everybody's at 0 sanity damage, before we jump into the festivities, I want to check in real quick on the Dreamlands. Are you all planning on doing the ritual tonight after dinner, or holding off on either doing it or talking about it till tomorrow? Let me tell you about the change in Vic's madness crunch, Johnny, so you have that information.
Yes.
The big change is that at dormancy, he can now make a will save every night to see if he benefits from sleep. And mechanically, Johnny should know the odds are very much in his favor. So he may be feeling like it's worth a try at least, but it's up to you. But that's the crunch.
Awesome.
All right, you all discuss.
I say yes.
To what?
To going to the Dreamlands.
Have you slept in a week or something? Like, when's the last time Vic slept?
He hasn't, but I still think that we should go to the Dreamlands.
He's not fatigued.
He's not fatigued.
No. He's on a lot of drugs and magic.
But
So you think it or Vic thinks it?
both of us.
Okay. We have the only place left to go is the island, right?
There's 2 places left to
Right,
go.
but one of them has to be last.
Yep. So the super hard one, and then maybe the knock on wood easy one with the night hag heartstone.
Easy one with the night hag. Let's just timestamp that statement.
Exactly.
No, it's just, it's just the one that we have to do last. that makes it an easy choice to do last.
We don't have to do it last. We're choosing to do it last so we have the most time with it.
Right, but it's an easy choice to do it
Yep.
last. That doesn't make it any easier than any of the others. And that is all we have left, though, right? It's just been a
two
while,
left,
so it's
yeah.
just 2 left.
And it seems like in the intervening months since we last as players had the conversation, it seems like you all as players are now leaning towards, let's just get them all. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
We tried some shenanigans with Barnabas to figure out if we needed all of them, and I think that's a losing proposition, so let's just get them all. If we feel ready to go, I mean, what's the difference between tonight and tomorrow?
I think we could go tonight. Yeah, I feel strong. You feel strong?
Yeah. No, I feel like I could actually go to sleep during the ritual and like really face my fears, Stabs. I think I'm ready.
Well, let's do it together.
Yeah, that's fine. If everyone wants to do it, that's fine. I'm not going to die on this hill.
Knock on wood.
I want that t-shirt now.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Not going to die on this hill.
Alrighty. But first, we have a feast. Let's get into it. We have a 4-course meal to consume tonight, prepared in-game by head chef Harlar and his assistant Vic, plus, of course, help from many hands over the past several days. And it was prepared on the metagame level by Paul. Thank you for putting this lovely menu together for us, Paulie.
Yay!
So, tonight, at nightfall, 19 souls gather on the deck of the Starling, sitting at anchor on the western shore of the Selin River. 12 halflings, 3 humans, a half-orc, a kitsune, an Azamar, and a cat. Blood is thicker than water, they say. For some, that means that ties of literal blood, the ties of family, are the strongest bonds that exist. But for those who have fought side by side to protect their home and each other, there is also the tie created between those who have lost or spilled blood together. And this particular tie, some say, is just as strong as the tie of literal blood, that family is family, whether born or forged, begotten or found. Blood is thicker than water, and this little family that has bled together on these waters gathers. Everyone's in good health tonight, except, of course, for Barnabas. Now, tomorrow is going to be the day that Barnabas will take his real turn into the sweats and the confusion of seaborne consumption, because it'll be, at that point, 30 days since he made his last save. But tonight, he is up for gathering, feeling a little under the weather, but I'm guessing not enough that he'd miss the feast, right?
No. Well, where could he go?
It's true. There is nowhere to go. So our first course this evening is of cold comforts and briny temptations, a spread of salted, pickled, and preserved delights. Polly, why don't you tell us what everyone will be eating?
For the first course, we have strips of garbelly cured in lake salt, smoked over river birch, served with crumbling white cheese and twice-baked black crisps. Pickled eel and wild onions, the slick meat of silver eels steeped in sharp vinegar and honeyed brine tangled with wild onions and mustard seed.
This is all one course.
This is all
first
one.
course.
This is
This
first
is
course.
just your meal.
And this is finger food.
Right.
This is small bites.
Dried trout and blueberry chutney. Lean flakes of river trout dried stiff in the smokehouse and eaten with thick spiced chutney of last summer's blueberries and clove. And preserved apples and crisp radish. Wrinkled apples from the store barrels, their flesh still tart, served alongside shaved radish and a smear of butter churned in the ship's hold.
So as these delights are being passed around, Skywin would fill in the 3 of you, Vic, Dora, and Grip, and I guess, and Stanhope, and Barnabas, and Stasi. So, every year we're on the water together as this night falls. We always gather for a great feast, and we've developed our own traditions for the Night of the Pale. First, we start off with the coldest of the evening's food. It's a cold night, a cold time. Our hearts ache for those that we've lost. And it seems to us, and I think it was actually Otha that kicked off this whole idea, it seems to us that the least we can do to send our sympathies to those chilly spirits out there that might be aching to return. The least we can do on this cold night is to cool ourselves, to sit for a moment or two in the darkness that our loved ones now walk, to assure them they are not alone and they will never be forgotten. So we nibble on cold comforts, we douse the lights, and we say their names, and we hope that they hear us. And so they pass out the plates, and they douse the lights, and everyone says a name or two in the darkness and the cold. We'll save those names for now, because I think they'll all get spoken before we're done tonight. But let's just take a moment to picture our friends, these characters that we have lived with for so many years now, to picture them sitting together in the darkness beneath the stars, giving voice to the names of the dead. After everyone's said their names, Veldi lights a single candle, which casts these fascinating, craggy shadows all over his scarred face. As most of you know, I was born in Sothis, in Syrian. It was not my fate to live there long, for the slavers that find so many of our kind found me there quite young. But one of the memories I hold on to from those long ago days with my parents was a tradition that they had on this night, which we used to do on the shore of the river Sphinx. Joshua should be finding you all with your coins, yes? And tall, bearded Joshua's shuffling around, pressing into everyone's hand a silver coin, one of the coins liberated from the tribute taker, in fact, which has had a hole cut through the center. And Veldi holds up a line of thread that he has painted silver. He holds it over the candle so you can all see. It gleams a little bit, and he ties it to the end of a silver coin of his own, running the line through the coin, wrapping and wrapping and wrapping, tying it tight. We will all tie our coins to this line, and this silver line represents the River of Souls. And these coins are to represent the cost of passage paid to the psychopumps to deliver our departed loved ones safely to the boneyard. We say to those who left this year, there is no need to remain. Your way has been paid. First-class accommodation. We are looking after you, as we always will, until we are once more reunited in the shadow of the Grey Lady's throne. And everyone takes their coin, ties it to the line, and Veldi takes it to the port side rail, and he drops it in the river with a small whispered prayer. And then all the lights are relit specifically from the candle that Veldi had. And this is done by Lynn and Din, based on a tradition of lamp lighting on the Night of the Pale from their original homeland of Nydal. And as the lights are being relit, we are brought into the second course, which is one of hearty broths and bread. So as we picture the deck warming under the light of these small steaming bowls being passed around, Polly, what does this course consist of?
This course is gar and root stew, thick broth of slow-boiled gar bones, with sweet tubers, river herbs, and hunks of marrow-rich fish meat floating within. Dense rye bread, black as night, crusted with salt, fashioned into the shape of a shepherd's crook, served with butter churned in the ship's hold. And pot liquor and barley porridge, this rich, dark liquor of smoked greens and ham drippings, stirred with cracked barley and bits of crisped fat.
And as all this yummy, belly-warming food is coming out, you see Reuben, bundled under his mountain of coats, putting together a little serving, sitting on a barrel by itself off to the side, as Gosa stands up. And she's tugging at one of her little Pippi Longstocking braids, like she was in a Robert Jordan novel or something. And she says, "We had a tradition in Irsen that is hard for me and Reuben to let go, and the crew has been kind enough to allow us to continue. It was the way, on this night, in the land of the Winter Witches, to lay out a serving of the warmest food every night of the Pale for Baba Yaga. She travels far, she sees much. And should she decide to pay your table a visit on this darkest of nights, you would be wise to ensure there is food waiting to fill her belly. For if the geists are to rise, the witches said, you want dear grandmother on your side, well fed and ready to fight. As you're all slurping down the soup and the river fat butter, Skywin steps back up. Now, I know the three of you don't really remember much about, well, anything, but if any of our other new crew members have traditions of their own they want to add into the mix, please be my guest.
Barnabas would.
Yeah.
His little ears would twitch at that. Actually, when he's in human form, so he's.
They can still twitch.
I guess his ears still twitch. That's canon. So he says, well, when I was a boy, when my parents were still alive, they were still fighting the wars against the Balor. They would have a tradition on this night where they would tell a story about someone they know that has passed this past year, in the hopes of. Since the reason for people coming back during this night is not necessarily for good things, yes, it is they want to come back to exact revenge, or they want to come back to express horror, or we would try to tell a story of someone we lost that was a good story, that was something that brought a smile to our face when we would think of them, so they would hear these stories, yes, and remember the good part of life and knows that they do not need to come back to exact revenge or to exact terror because they are still loved and they are still remembered, yes?
Oh, I love this idea.
So I think that would be a good thing. I would give an example if you would like me to go first, or if someone else would like to go.
Why don't we do this with our main course? Everyone who wants to take the time, between bites, can have all the time to think about the stories of them. I love this idea. Let's do it. Yes, let's do it during course 3.
Very good.
Fantastic. Anyone else?
I have an idea.
All right.
Yeah. So, you guys, everybody's heard about the Grand Day of Exaltation, right? It's like a big Taldorian Casimir. Come on, Dabs. I know you've heard of it.
Dab knows it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul doesn't, but Dabs does.
Yeah. So this is okay. It's really awesome. Okay. So my dad always thought it was like one of the best things about Taldor. Anyone could become part of the nobility. So like every year there are different events, contests, really, to see where you're trying to show your best self, your best talent, and why you're worthy of becoming part of like the nobility. And like at the end of all the contests and stuff, like the head royalty, they pick someone and boom, now you're royalty too, and that's pretty cool. So
And by head royalty, you mean the emperor?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We'd go and we'd watch, and we'd cheer on our friends and stuff, and sometimes they'd move up in the competition. Most of the time they didn't.
You know what? You've given me an idea.
Oh, I gave you an idea, Captain?
Joshua, I do believe it's time. Joshua ducks back into Skywin's cabin, and he comes back with something bundled up in a small red velvet cloth. Grip, on your feet and at attention.
Yes, Captain.
And the rest of the crew, the actual crew, stands, all the halflings, including Dabwick, who knows what's about to happen, even though Polly doesn't, because it last happened to them. Grip, even though you have much to learn, if you wish to progress further in your career, your apprenticeship is officially over. And you have earned the rank of able-bodied sailor. It's just cheering and saluting all around.
Yeah.
And
way to go, Grip.
Also, in recognition of your service, you are no longer a hired hand. I hereby welcome you into the ranks of the crew of the Sylvan Starling. And Joshua unfolds the red velvet cloth, and inside there is a small circular disc of bronze embossed with the symbol of an anchor kind of entwined with rope. Every one of the halflings, including Dabwick, has one of these, somewhere like a badge over their heart, somewhere on a chain around their neck. Dabs has fashioned theirs into a belt buckle, and you can see it on every bit of Matt's art for Dabwick, going as far back as chapter 37, I think. Skywin picks up the disc and presents it to Grip. Welcome to the crew, sailor. This is your home for as long as you wish to claim it.
Rob's a little choked up. And Grip is too. I think he looks at the ground and does not know what to say. He digs into a pouch or a pocket and he pulls out the constable badge.
Wow.
And he looks at it and he throws the fucking thing into the lake. Or the river, what are we on right now? River. Throws it into the river. And he is looking at his new sigil, and he looks at the captain and says, Captain, I don't know what to say. I don't think I have ever been so grateful for something in my fucking life. I hope I do you proud. Thank you, and just a big thank you to all you fuckers.
There is a tradition among the halflings.
You're not going to beat me into the gang,
No. So, many of our kind are born into terrible conditions. Many halflings in the region never knew their families. But for those who find freedom and learn the way of the waves, the tradition goes that whether you choose to use it legally or not, you are entitled to a surname from the vessel where you apprentice. Some take the ship's name or a variation. Some take the captain's name or a variation. Crew, present yourselves. And every halfling stands sharply at attention. Captain Clarabeth Condent taught me the way of the waves. I am Skywin Condent Freeling. I learned the way of the waves on this vessel. I am Joshua Starling Lone Penny. I learned the way of the waves from Catherine Ephraim Dulin. I'm Vildi Dulin. I learned the way of the waves on the Triella Tea Leaf. I am Catson Tea Leaf. I learned the way of the waves aboard the Emerald Flask. I am Martha Greenbottle Nee Torquitius. But don't you tell us so! I learned the way of the waves from Edward Cooper. I'm Lynn Edwardson Timbers. Din Edwardson Timbers, you know. Gosa Matas Daughters Sky Heart Good Earth. Huiben Hardcastle Sky Heart Good Earth. You don't want to know who I learned the way from? Let me just say, I am Benemy Hog's Breath. I learned the way from Lars the Greybeard Golden Helm. I am Harlan Potra Otvosh Ventilio Larson. And then they all look to Dabwick, who has not yet spoken their name aloud.
Oh, I learned the way of the waves from Captain Skywin Freeling. My name is Dabwick Freewing.
This is your family, Grip. Welcome to it.
I will give some thought to that name.
Yes. Whenever you are ready.
I'm honored.
All right, enough of that. Let's eat! And that's when it's presented, the third and the main course of the night, the bounty of the river, in fire and smoke. The heart of the feast, rich with the flesh of gar. Polly, walk us through it.
Blackened gar steaks, thick-cut fillets rubbed with fire spice and charred in a hot pan, finished with a squeeze of sour orange and a dusting of lake pepper. Gar pie with suet crust, chunks of gar meat slow-cooked in gravy of onion and leeks, baked beneath a thick golden crust dripping with fat. Roast gar head and river salt, the monstrous head of a full-grown gar, roasted over open flame until its eyes turned to jelly, split and served with coarse salt and ship-brewed vinegar. And greens and smoked lard, bitter river greens fried in lard and tossed with crushed garlic and flakes of red pepper.
Amazing. And then everyone would tell their stories as we feast. Let's jump in. Does Barnabas want to go first?
Yeah, unless someone is dying to go, Barnabas would kick it off. It was his idea.
Yeah.
When I was in Briarstone, I spent a lot of the time in a very drug-induced state. And I was by myself in a cell for a lot of the time, and I was working on formulating what would eventually become the ballad of Bassanio and Persephone. And in my drug-induced state, I was pulling out words and trying to remember the name of the Belor that attacked the city that we all were fighting. And I was running through it, and I was saying, Kamazo, Karzan, and then through the stone of my cell, I hear a small scratchy voice go, Karamzadeh. I said, what? He goes, the name you're looking for. It is Karamzadeh. I said, yes, that is it. Who are you? He said, well, you can call me the scholar. And that is what I called him. And ever since then, we would have conversations, not every night, but every other night, every third night, I would hear the scratching, and I would say, Scholar, is that you? And he goes, yes, it is me. And we would talk about all things historic and all things magical. And they were conversations that I had never had with anyone, and they were wonderful. And sometimes I would hear, it seemed like he was maybe talking to someone else. I could not tell. It was never clear, but I would hear maybe words in a different language that was not my language. But then he would always come back, and sometimes some of the things he would say would be a bit disturbing, like he was a little bit too focused on violence or revenge. And I figured, well, he is in the asylum, so this is the safest place for him to be, no? So I did not make anything of it. I don't know. I never heard from him again since the earthquake, but I have very often missed the scholar. I assume he died in the earthquake. Now that I think of it, though, that when I would hear him talk in other words sometimes, now that I have done more reading, and I think that might have been the first time I ever heard the language abyssal. I'm not sure. But I would like to raise a glass to the scholar. I hope if you are gone, you are well, and know that you are well remembered.
To the scholar!
To the scholar.
The scholar.
To the scholar. Dora says curiously, wondering if she knows who that man is. Thinking she might.
Yeah, she might very well. Dabs had a little ritual thing with theirs, too. You want to jump in with Dabs?
Yeah, well, right. So this year, a man I knew, an auditor, passed away. I didn't know until I'd come to his office to register me quarterly taxes, which is expected of all licensed small businesses in the city of Casimir. His name was Lynchpin, of all things. Argriff Lynchpin. Turns out no one knew if he had a next of kin. His papers were found neatly organized in the bank, leaving his modest savings to various organizations for the poor. I'm sorry to say I heard of no mourning ceremony or funeral, and it bothered me. I just wonder, what if I'm the only one thinking of him tonight? The old man was kind to me in his fashion. I hate to think of his disturbed spirit causing harm. What if the circumstances of his funeral bothered him too? Imagine a vengeful old Mr. Lynchpin returning to his desk at the office of the Exchequer in Old Casimir tonight. He'd be right next to the Casimiri Constabulary, where many officers would still be on duty. If he came back from beyond the grave looking for a fight, people could get hurt. Listen up, ye old Hargriff Lynchpin. You are a good deal fair and proper to this here halfling, and I always appreciated that you took on me file without batting an eye at me meagre earnings or me way of earning them. He handled me papers and seals with great care, and always made a habit of saying that he'd double-check the numbers and would guarantee personally to their totals and percentages. And he had these smudgy glasses dotted with ink and sweat because he was always taking them off and putting them on to examine his papers. And Andy had a big nose what waggled when he shook his head, and it always made me smile. Be at peace, Argriff Lynchpin. Please don't be perturbed. We remember you and thank you for your service. So as part of our tradition, we weave together these strands of reeds from the river. And I weave them into a cross. Before, the cross had 3 points. And it's a little too close to the holy symbol of Astur. Let's add another corner. We weave the reeds together in a 4-cornered cross and take the cross and burn it, welcoming the dead back to the River of Souls.
Dabbs holds the little 4-pointed, sort of Celtic-like cross of reeds over the flame. And as it goes up, Skywin raises a glass. Hogrif Lynchpin.
Hogrif Lynchpin.
Hugger Lishman.
Veldy stands up. Back when we were in Thrushmoor, that little one, what was his silly name? Little Pop? Lil Pop? Anyhow, he told me of his friend Jonathan, who did not survive the time in the dungeon of Fort Halecourse. I speak your name, Jonathan, and I would like to praise you for your swimming skills, which were the envy, apparently, of every little boy in Thrushmoor for the last 3 years, at least according to Little Pop. He said that you swam the island run in an hour once. Such a good boy! Please do not appear tonight. Leave the boys who lived alone. They hold you in their hearts, and it is not their fault that you will never be a man. To Jonathan.
Jonathan.
And small and wispy Katzen stands up. And all the papers and books and tools and stuff she's always trucking around with her have been put away, and makes her look even younger than she already does. Standing there without all the kind of armor of her job clutched to her. This old soul really looks a bit like a little kid tonight. A little sad. If I can go, I saw a dead man in the alley next to Walston's shop in Zur. I didn't say anything at the time. There's no real point, obviously, but I saw him. And I'm sure he's dead because of the cruelty of the people of that terrible place. Their hateful hearts and their hateful God. I'm sorry. I try so hard not to dwell on feelings like this, but I can't get the picture of that fella out of my head. Whatever your name was, you deserve better. You deserved better than the wickedness of all those people pretending to be godly, ruining everyone's lives there. This isn't a story, I'm sorry. But I send you my love. Rise up. Do not sink back down here tonight. Move on from Rasmurin. That place is not worth your time, even for revenge. And she sits back down.
I got somebody. Okay. So there was this guy that owed some money to the Triangle Man and the to Grip. Back when they were the Triangle Man and anyways, Fenton Dunhall, that was his name. He was a gambler, and he was always into them for something, and he was always late paying them back. And me and Keldrin were supposed to go and either get the interest in cash, goods, or just a little minor roughing up, just some brute, nothing serious. He always had a game running in the back of the silver wagon, and we weren't going to go in there, so we had to wait outside for him. But we waited a long time, and we were there all night. He finally rolls out about like 4 or 5 in the morning, and we jump him and pull in the alley. He just starts laughing and going, boys, I got your money. I've got your money. Turns out he'd had a very good night, and he was flush. I mean, he counted out what he owed in full, plus interest owed, plus a little something for the two of us on account of having to wait outside for him all night. And then I couldn't believe it. He says he wants to take us out and show us a good time. he takes us back into the wagon and buys us breakfast with some beers, and we end up getting a little unruly, and they ask us to leave. So we hit the stain for some more drinks, and the waitresses are all over him and talking him up, and he's feeling so good. And here's the thing about Fenton. He was a loser from jump. I mean, he was a skinny little rat with a greasy hair and a little mustache. He was funny, though. And he was the big man that day, buying everyone drinks and telling stories and getting some action from the ladies and bragging about how he's finally square with the Triangle Man and it was a great day for old Fenton. Of course, a few days later he was down again and back begging for money to tide him over, and a week later we were doing our regular rounds picking up what was owed, you know. You told us. You two told us not to bother. You go and pick up what was owed yourself from Fenton. Never saw him again. Everyone knew. Everyone knew what really happened to him. So, Fenton, you were a shit gambler and a loser, but, you know, maybe you can remember that time when you were like the big man. Came out on top, okay? It was a good day, yeah?
To Fenton.
To Fenton.
Fenton.
The two brothers get up, all pasty skin and green eyes and red hair. Din. Okay, so this is kind of weird, but Lynn wants me to tell a story about him. He still kind of feels like he may have died. At least maybe there's a world, you know, where he did die. And just in case, you know, there's an angry Lynn Timbers ghost out there tooling about in the afterlife, wanting to come back here and raise a ruckus. Well, angry Lynn ghost, look! And he hugs his brother. And Lynn's like crying. He's been on a bit of a roller coaster lately. I love you! I love my brother! And I'll never forget the time when you taught me how elbow grease was just an expression. You're a great teacher, even about silly things. So don't haunt us tonight, okay, if you please? Thank you. This is Din, your brother, who is not a ghost. And Benjamin gets up. I never got a new kiss this year. And her wild, fairy yellow eyes are almost glowing in the firelight. I thought I could weasel one out of the grip, but between all the insanity and the rituals and the killings and all, maybe that's for the best. But I haven't kissed Lynn yet, so ghostly Lynn, see how loved you are. And she mauls, not ghost Lynn, with a wildly aggressive, but like immediately, obviously, completely consensual, open mouth kiss / face sucking, and they kind of slip away. Some folks look over at Otha. She just shakes her head. She stays unusually quiet for her. Joshua gets up. He's rubbing at the knuckles of his right hand a little nervously. You've never really noticed how big his hands are or how kind of puffy his knuckles are. Hi. So he didn't die this year, but I have to say his name. My friend Horace was the best friend that a guy could have. He knew stuff, he cared about stuff. He taught me how to box, and that was my living for years back in Almas. Bare knuckle boxing. Buddy, I love you with all my heart. I don't know if you're still showing up back at that little apartment you had every year, but someday I promise to be brave enough to find out. Just not yet, not this year. And Reuben stands up holding Ghost's hand. Like with Joshua, we have an old name, Gretchen. We love you. That is all.
I do not fear that winter is coming tonight, even though I am probably the closest thing she had to a home. I am probably where she would go if she were to visit anywhere tonight, but she will not. I know she will not. So a story. Regardless. Last spring, we heard a priest from Crypt Gate Cathedral was to visit at the Maiden's Choir in Caliphas. Do you know this Crypt Gate? It is in Cavapesta and is where they practice the Pharasman penitence. If you don't know what that is, I don't like to tell you, but... Well, you all know that when you die, your soul will be judged by the Lady of Graves and the pain you have suffered will balance the pain you have caused. These people, these penitents, they seek to shift the balance, not by causing less pain to others, but by causing more pain to themselves. I admit I was very intrigued by this idea. I wanted to meet this priest, talk to him, understand. Winter, she grew up in the church, so she was a snob? Is that what you would call her? She looked down on this man, but not on me, so she indulged me. We go and dine with this priest. We have a nice meal, one of the nicest I have ever had before tonight. I found him humble and interesting, wise. I thought maybe he has something figured out that I do not. How can it hurt, I wonder, to inflict pain upon myself, not anyone else, if it accounts for some of the pain I have caused others to suffer? Family, friends, people I have been sent to deal with in my position. And then, in the middle of dinner, this priest summons 2 servants who remove his robes, his vest, his tunic, and whip him in front of us for minutes, it seems. When they are done, they dress him again. They are paid. They depart. He says, I will not sleep on my back tonight. And I wanted to weep for this man, what he puts himself through, for the anguish he has wrought upon others. But when I tell Winter this later, she slaps me across the face. She says, you cannot really believe that the Lady of Graves' judgment will be usurped by this man's vanity. What of the suffering of the servants who are paid to cause his pain? Is he justified in harming others because he also harms himself? She reminded me, no matter what we do, there is exactly as much suffering in the world as there should be. We do not get to negotiate for more or less. She will not come tonight.
Benamy and Lynn have waited for a moment of quiet. They come back and rejoin the group, a little flushed. Benamy's like, oh, hey, you've got a name for everyone? Say it with me now, because it's so easy to remember and to pronounce. Our dear departed Montcamus Ilfward Underborough! Dead to us all and replaced by a much steadier hand.
Stanhope kind of like gets pink in the face and just doesn't say anything.
Now, I know this is new to the 3 of you, and you don't have to go if you don't want to, but Vic and Dora and Grip, if you have anything you want to say, do feel free.
Well, yes, I do. There was someone that passed this year that, well, none of us really knew, but who was incredibly important to the 3 of us. Over the past several weeks, I have taken the liberty of reading some objects that didn't reveal anything, new about our circumstance or our destination or our past, except for one common thread. There was a 6th member of that party. His name was Reynard. Not my Reynard. She looks fondly at Barnabas.
Yeah.
But the actual Reynard. He was always present. In everything I've read, he's always there. And what I began to notice, and it was subtle at first, is that he loved the Triangle Man. He would follow him around. The Triangle Man kept treats for him in his pocket and called him Rennie. He might want to come here tonight. To me, oddly enough. But I think if he did, he would be mollified, knowing that his friend, not his master, goes on. To Reynard.
Reynard.
Grip will stand up. He looks over at Stanhope for a moment. I do not remember this Fenton. I do not doubt the truth of what you say, but I do not remember him. Sounds like he was someone who played stupid games and won stupid prizes, so I do not feel particularly remorseful about that one. When we stood inside the hold of a bloodwind, you could feel the suffering come up from the deck. You knew it was a deck soaked with blood. I felt the same thing when we stood in the hold of that faith barge, where we made short work of those pirates. And when we got to the hold and there were those rowers that were still in chains that we let go, it was clear they were not there by their choice. And I have not been able to stop thinking about the likelihood that those what we fought on the top of the deck, well, maybe some of them were not there by their choice as well. And for that, I do feel remorse. I don't know any of their names. I'm not going to tell them to not come back tonight, because if they feel salty about how they've been treated by me, well, I'm here. And he sits back down.
I got to echo Grip and say I don't remember this Fenton fella. When we talk about our ledger, got a fair number of names in it. There's a lot of people that we left behind at that island. A lot of people that helped a lot of patients there. And even though when we knew them, they weren't even necessarily themselves, they still did a lot of good. Dr. Lissandro, Dr. Chouar, Dr. Oste, Father Satrakian, Dr. Latchkey, Mr. Gabriel, Dr. Skane, Clades, Campray, Linway, Orderly.
He's going to get his increase.
Yes. Yeah. He's finally going to get his increase. And then there were a lot of patients that didn't make it out of there. Some who suffered a lot. Oliver Zandalis, Bryn, and his that damn unicorn. Dr. Gulliver Vaticus. And then people that didn't make it out of the town. Cassadia Renz, Emmon Golston of the Stain. There's one name I've been thinking about a lot that I don't want you coming back, but I don't know what it is that you did that was good in your life. Reese. How about we just let bygones be bygones? Call it a night.
And Harlar doesn't stand up, but he raises a hand, which everyone takes as a signal. He's got his purple Varisian scarf wrapped snugly around his neck. He's puffing away at his pipe. Finished his meal already. I lost someone very special to me this year. Lily. All of the halflings. Oh no. For those of you who never met her, she was a beekeeper. Beekeeper in Bellis. And every trip up and down the Selenite, I get to see her. And I never got around to telling her that I loved her. And her mean brother told me on the way up that she died of a broken heart. Well, Lily, I'll never forget the first time I saw you running pell-mell through that field, racing for your life from that monstrous swarm of bees I accidentally riled up. I still don't know how you ever forgave me, but you did. And look, everyone loved you, and all the halflings nod. You were so loved. Don't hurt anyone tonight, or if you have to, just hurt me. Send those damn ghost bees after me. And Skyward stands. I don't know what to say. I feel compelled to say a name, but I don't know for sure if she's gone, so maybe it's bad luck. I don't know, but I was so worried last time I left her. She seemed like she was at the end of her rope. I'm not even sure if that's it, but in case she's gone, J-Dove saved me from an assault in Admiral's Fen many years ago. It's how we met. I don't even know if you knew that, Debs. I was in a very dark place at the time. Anyway, I literally owe my life to her. So, J-Dove, wherever you are, I hope you're still at home when I return. But if not, know that you saved me. And I've never forgotten. And as folks start clearing away the dishes to move on to the last course of the feast, Skywyn pulls Dabwick aside and pulls a sealed envelope out of a coat pocket. It has your name on it.
Oh, what's this?
She told me to give it to you tonight, Debs. She hands it over.
Do you mind if I read this aloud?
Please do.
A star cannot see its own place in the sky. Dabwick. By now you, and whoever your friends may be, you have hopefully done whatever it is Mother Moon believes you can do. I don't know why it had to be then, and I don't know why it had to be you. I don't even know who they are. To me, they are merely shapes in shadow, faceless forms I've followed through the forest. I'm so sorry. I fear I may have rained terrible consequences down on your head, so you deserve to know the truth. This was never about Skywyn's safety. My reasons for sending you north with her were purely selfish. I'm so sorry. All I can offer in return are two names. One is for tonight, Finn Heartsong. He is gone. I'm so sorry. The other is for the future, Lilbet Heartsong. I have seen her. The Queen of the North Star has shown her to me in my dreams. Dabwick, your mother lives. Her name is Lilbet. She lives in Magnamar. May we all be reunited with those we deserve to see again. Jay. Heartsong. Lilibet Heartsong. My mother. Skywyn?
Dabwick, I didn't know.
Oh, Jade. Why would Jade Dove...
What has she done?
Why send me here? Finn and Lilibet.
Well, we can raise a toast. To Finn Hartshorn, at least.
I think... this is for my father? Finn Artsong.
Finn Hartshorn.
Finn Hartshorn.
Hard song.
And that brings us to our last course. Sweets and a strong welcome drink to finish the night. Some spiced confections and spirits.
A dense cake of dried plums, seeds, and black molasses swimming with a slick of spiced treacle. Crisp rounds of shipbread, fried in deep fat and rolled in crushed almonds and dark honey. Pears aged in spice vinegar until they soften, served in their own syrup with a sprig of dried mint. And ship's own dark rum and smoked cherry brandy. Aged in the hull in old oak barrels, the ship's rum warms the bones, while the brandy, steeped with smoked cherries, lingers on the tongue.
To the end of 1 year and the start of the next, may we leave our troubles upriver and find new joys downstream. Cheers.
Salut.
Here, here.
Cheers!
Cheers.
To the friends who left us in the past, to the friends we have found in the present, and to the friends we will make in the new year. Salut.
Salut.
Every ending is a beginning. Prost.
Prost. As this last round of cheers are going on and talking about beginnings, Barnabas, who is, he's getting a little tipsy. He's a little tipsy at this point. He goes, speaking of beginnings, I think you would find this amusing, you know. There was a while back when you were all back in Strathmore, you were going and doing your things, and I was doing my thing, and I was looking at all the records in Fort Halecourse, you know, looking at different bits of town history, you know. I found a couple of interesting things, yes. First of all, did you know, in 20 days from now, 20 days from today, is the birthday of Braden Vaticus, The 20th of Abadius will be his birthday. So in 20 days, we should remember to raise a glass, yes, to toast young Ray, who is no longer with us. But this is even funnier. You will not believe it. Today, the 31st of Kurthona, is Tima's birthday. So happy birthday to the witch, Tima Omtea. And he slugs his drink down and crashes it on the deck and falls over.
To anathema.
I can picture our little found family drinking and toasting together. But you know, it's not merely on the deck of the Sullen Starling that folks gather this night to tell or listen to stories of the fallen. Let's zoom out a little bit, shall we? Drop in on just some of the folks we've met over the past, I believe at this point it's 141 episodes, when you count all the interludes and the multi-parters, over the past 5 years of our real-world lives. For example, we can start with some folks we've met recently. Tonight, Chester Bindley sits among the Stardust Augurs. His recovery has been slow, his mental recovery, that is. And of course it has been. He was sleeping for over a decade, 13 years. But they kept him alive that entire time. And tonight, he listens quietly to the mediums and the spiritualists and the occultists among the augurs as they tell their tales of those that they lost this year. But he does not speak up for himself. He holds to himself his wife's name and his daughter's name, refusing to believe that they're actually dead. And meanwhile, back in the River Kingdoms on the north side of Callus Lake, a certain ratfolk witch warms himself by a campfire. What's happening there, Polly?
Well, on the northern side of Callus Lake, Ulf, the giant flea, catches sight of these druidic ghosts swarming over the water and tells Neb to approach cautiously.
Transforming in and out of fish shape as they go.
Yes. Yes, the night of the pale, Ulf. It's the night of the pale. We must remember. See? The ghosts of the unresting dead are merciless to those who've wronged them. We have seen, haven't we, so much. But there is one whose eyes gleam in our memory. Listen here, Ulf. Listen to me tell you of Mabs. Ooh, that house we found. Yes, the folk who camped there. They who knew no enemy, no owed any debts. Zer found them. Yes, men from Zer with a hatred for the refugees. Do you remember, Ulf? We watched them. We waited for days just to watch them. We watched the Warren gather hay and wood to insulate against the coming cold. Watched Mabs playing in the dirt. Mabs so pale you could see the sunlight through her pink ears. But we see, don't we, when the eye of misfortune casts its shadow on the world, and we know, don't we, how bad things happen to good people. At this point, the fur around Neb's eyes is wet with tears. He's holding Ulf by the shoulders, who watches with detached curiosity. Do you remember how we watched and we did nothing? Oh, what could we do? Oh, no, what could we do? Forgive us, little Mabs. Little wee pink Mabs with her tail as pale as moonlight. May you find peace under the stars. Gentle your spirit and find rest.
And meanwhile, in the Dreamlands, what is a day? What is a year? Pfft. Even though time is relative and frequently irrelevant there, still, the thoughts, emotions, and ideas of mortal dreamers are powerful, and they can't help but shape the place. And tonight, whatever that word may mean, tonight across the Dreamlands, many individuals feel strangely compelled to gather and tell stories of those they've lost, air quotes, recently. Again, whatever that word may mean. The Cats of Igu's Kais tell stories of those who fell to the Gugs. The Summoner knows that Vic fell, so they speak Vic's name. And the party never got their names, but three ghasts, Coresto, Milana, and Utrenk, sit atop Wagon Hill and look out over the emptiness Arventon has become. The dwarf had been a lawyer in life, y'all. I have complete backstories for them that we never got. The elf was a journalist of sorts. The half-orc was what they called a deconstructor back when Arventon was alive. These ghasts, they sit and they stare and they fight through the growing hunger pangs, and they make up stories to each other about the four strange travelers that they met, certain they could no longer possibly be alive. And you know, we only knew them as Halberd Guy and Battle Axe Guy. They have names, of course, but at this point in the campaign, we're drowning in proper nouns, so don't worry about them. These guys, they made their way downstream to the mouth of the Akranos River and the city of Hlaneth, with its granite walls, its oak wharves, and houses with plastered gables. And these two mercenaries sit in a dockside pub, and they tell stories to each other of their 5 fallen brothers. The stories go long into the night because neither of them wants to begin the process of trying to strategize on how exactly to tell Mom. And we must not forget Burakur and his insanity of Zoogs as they gather to tell stories of Mortimer! And his many victories over the years, the loves he had, the lives he changed. They sing the songs he wrote. They swear the oaths he coined. They dance the fanciful and evocative Zoogish dance moves that he invented. And they tell stories, too, of the Pards, you know, just in case. And they also, just in case, they sing a song of the Tree Tiger Alpha and Great Warrior, who died on the same day, on the same branch, soaked in each other's blood. And returning back to the real world, let's not forget the people of Thrushmore. The folks we've known for a very long time now. A number of tales are told there this night, obviously. Many are told in the Stain, where the bulk of the Briarstone survivors have gathered. Denman pours drinks, and no one pays, not tonight, as the nurses and patients from the asylum tell stories of the doctors, the orderlies, the nurses, and the patients there. And up at the Silver Wagon, many of the townies have gathered as Wren Elburn and Acting Magistrate Vouston York hand out the drinks that Dina pours, and they listen to their new community, tell the stories of those they lost, including Cassadia, Barrow and Kessel, Trullis Mavey, and they even tell stories of Melisande Carroro as best they can. They know now they didn't know her at all. But they have some stories to tell from the years when the thin line between buzzed and wasted allowed for some simple human moments to pass between the people of that town and the woman who would try to sacrifice them all. They really don't want her ghost showing up tonight. And we have a little scene to play out, Johnny. Just a little scene. Because Princess Brenton, Knight Protector Maeve the Brave, and Detective Sergeant First Class Bates have snuck away from the Stain to do what children do. They dare each other to enter the spooky old abandoned house nobody knows exactly what to do with. Now, there's no Wailing House in Thrushmore anymore, so Maeve, Brenton, and Bates are sneaking around Iris Hill.
Oh,
boy.
my God.
And we find them in the only structure they're actually brave enough to enter, which is the first structure, the guest house. They've left the first floor lounge behind with its brick fireplace and mahogany table and antique sideboard and the wallpaper of tiny Triskelions. Creak, creak, creak. They're making their way up the stairs to the second floor. Who's in the lead?
I think Bates would want to be in the lead, but it's probably Maeve.
Okay, all right. So Maeve has got her stick sword. As you all reach the second floor landing, there's two doors. One is open, one is closed. The open one is the one right there at the top of the stairs to the left. And Maeve pokes her head around the corner. Oh my God. Oh my God.
What is it?
Detective Sergeant,
Yeah.
come look.
All right.
I need you to analyze the scene.
Okay. All right. Let me see.
Poke your head around the corner. Looks like a fucking bomb went off in this fancy bedroom. Like 24 points of force damage were done to everything in the room 70 chapters ago. 4-poster bed, destroyed. Fireplace, shattered. Ceramic stove, shattered. Open footlocker, ransacked and shattered. Writing desk, broken.
I think it was some sort of explosion.
Obviously. What exploded?
All right. Well, let me look.
Yeah.
He's actually going to do a survival check and try to see if he can figure out from how things were laid out what might have happened.
Yeah. He determines that somebody thought they did an excellent job disarming a trap and probably didn't. And there's signs of 3 people wisely standing far away from the center of the explosion. But somebody who's, boot prints, maybe he recognizes? I don't know. Somebody was very close when the explosion went off, which was at the footlocker.
So, see, there was at least 3 people. They were all over here near the door. See, they were standing right here, and then there was one poor unfortunate soul who they thought that what this used to be. This used to be a locker. Now, they were messing with it, and some sort of explosion happened here, and it gave them a good walloping.
Princess Brenton raises his hand.
Yes, Princess.
Well, if there are dead people, did it kill them?
No, because I can see where this fella, they got back up.
They got... All right. I don't want to see dead people. Don't be a baby. Oh my God. All the dead people are going to be swooping in to the dumb adults who are telling their stories. Ghosts love stories. They don't love empty houses. Don't be stupid, baby. Okay. At a closed door up there, Detective Sergeant.
All right. Slowly opening the door.
To a child's bedroom. The bedroom of 2 children. There's a set of bunk beds. Base doesn't see a ton of personal belongings. There's dust on everything, except, as you can see, fading footprints from what looks like 4 folks who passed quickly through here.
All right, so them same 4 folks, they were in that room, and then they came into this room and they went right on through.
All that dead people.
I don't see any.
All right.
Mostly just dust.
All right. Heading in, because these kids would probably first explore the bunk bed, because bunk beds are awesome. And they find...
I call top bunk.
Damn it. They find the little R and D carved into the bedpost. And the room gets really cold.
I recognize you.
You hear a voice with no source as your breath baits is misting and steaming in the air.
Well, I don't recognize you because I can't see you nowheres.
You are Bates, the boy who found me after death.
The entire bunk bed starts shaking, and there's like this weird, eerie blue light starting to flash inside the room.
Do you remember me?
And then Ray materializes. Translucent, hovering, floating in the air. Maeve's on the lower bunk because you got the top bunk. She just like points her finger. It's the angel. It's the angel. It's the angel.
Who are you? Why are you here?
What? Why are you here?
Is that Maeve?
Are you my guardian angel? I'm so special.
I remember us. I'm Ray.
Yeah, I know who you are, Mr. Ray. But you're not supposed to be here.
You did something to me. Somehow. You kept me here.
It was an accident. I didn't mean to.
Don't apologize. Explain it to me. How have I lost so much that even in death I can't recover?
I'm just a little boy. I don't know what I did. Your friends, they said I was like some kind of doorway. But they said that they put you to rest, Mr. Ray.
I can't remember my past, Bates.
I know. Your friends, they can't remember their past either.
Why even here? Why even in death? My memories are lost to me.
I wish I could help. I really do. You did a lot of good for a lot of people, though. Maybe that's enough.
Flickering a little bit.
Why was I born if no one wanted me?
You were wanted. You had a lot of friends and a lot of people that loved you.
Why?
I think we should go. Detective Sergeant, I think we should go.
Why is my memory gone? Why?
And then with the word why echoing, rebounding off the walls of the chamber. That particular ghost that died this year leaves their home. And because we do know that in the canon of our world, in our story, the dead are walking this night, we can imagine some others. Because no one told tales of them to keep their restless spirits at bay, Daleen, Hollis, Tara, and Asa appear this night at their homes in Absalom. They shriek and wail, trying to forestall their ride down the river of souls, terrified of what they face in the afterlife they carved out for themselves. Namira Lowles appears, strangely, not at Iris Hill, thank goodness, but at her family's ancestral mansion in Curse, and she leaves corpses in her wake. more souls that will rise next year, presumably to kill others. It's a family tradition. It's Qual Thol and Degger Botha appear near the fish gold mines at the bottom of Avalon Bay. They are not a welcome sight to any of the scum. The ghost of Agra Loomis walks the streets of Rosenport, hands clenching and unclenching. And the shade of Jane materializes on a cliff overlooking Star Bay just outside of Casimir. She paces back and forth with two wolves at her side. These wolves now not transformed into mushroom monstrosities, but, though dead, in their true forms. There are 3 little unmarked graves at the top of this cliff. I don't think she knows why she's there, or why she considers this place home, or what even happened to her in this city so long ago. But we can picture her wandering. We can picture one version of her wandering alone and lost, trying to get back to what she lost. And there are many more, of course. There are also stories to be told of disappearances. Remember how I said that was a thing on the Night of the Pale? We'll hold off on those for now. But because it's probably time for these folks to wrap up, throw some salt around the deck, and for the party to head down to tear a hole in reality, we can imagine the crew getting everything put away as the party gathers below deck. Sits in their little circle, a little tipsy. Maybe more than a little tipsy in Barnabas's case, it sounds like. As they stare deeply into each other's eyes and begin passing around the staircase. Let's start with a Knowledge Arcana check from Dora. Add a +5.
31.
Stairs are getting heavier and heavier, larger and larger. One more Arcana check.
29.
A Knowledge Planes check.
31.
And after 50 minutes, by the time everything has been put away upstairs and the doorways to each of the holds upstairs have been lined with salt. Salt has been spread liberally around the top of the ship's ladder that goes down into the hold. The prop staircase falls on the floor, transforms into a real staircase. Dora says the special passphrase designed to get you to Sarnath.
Yep.
And the stairs transform. They seem to be made of solid, gleaming gold.
Oh, shit.
But upon inspection, it looks like maybe it's rotting wood covered in a thin gold leaf that's beginning to flake off the walls and the stairs.
Like an old temple?
Do you descend?
Yes.
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 And as they descend into another reality, we'll close out this chapter with just a few final stories back in the real world. Hope you'll indulge me here as we share 4 more specific stories that none of your characters would have any way of knowing were happening. And I know the experience of getting little peeks at stuff your characters don't know can be a little squishy feeling sometimes if having the meta knowledge, but here's how I'm thinking about these. We're heading into the final stretch of book 3 here, basically. Not that the end is like a handful of episodes away, but it's nigh. You can probably feel that, I'm guessing. And the ownership I would like to give you over the stories that we're about to share is for you to tell me sometime before our end game of book 3 if you would like these to be stories that your characters someday learn, or if you would prefer the tragedy or melancholy of them being things that your characters never learn. And that choice doesn't mean anything to you now, I know, but it will in a minute.
You said you want that before the end game of this book? Okay.
Yeah. I have scripts for you. All right. Blood is thicker than water, they say. For some, that means that the bond created between those that have laid down their lives for each other is the strongest bond that can be formed. But for others, it means that the ties of literal blood, the ties of family by birth and genetics, that those ties are absolute and unbreakable, stronger than time or fate or distance, that blood calls to blood. And in some families forged in the crucible of very specific losses, very specific trauma, the Night of the Pale brings about its own particular encounters. Far to the north, not too distant, from one of the headwaters of one of the many rivers that eventually feed into the Selen.
In a watermill perched on the edge of the Seven Tears River, Mina Cranach closes up her ledgers and logbooks. It's hard for her to tear herself away from her work and her beloved books, but it's time. Tonight is her 64th birthday, after all, and she should head over to the party. When she was a little girl, she hated that her birthday fell on the Night of the Pale because it meant she never really got the attention everyone else got on their birthdays. But she's come to be glad of the fact as the years have passed. In her adulthood, even though each individual birthday came to feel less and less significant as something to celebrate or commemorate, if she's honest with herself, it's actually nice that the community always has a festive gathering on the night that just so happens to be her birthday. She can pretend that in some small way the party has something to do with her. No matter how introverted she grew as she got older and older, she always had a reason to tell herself to get out of her little apartment above the mill and go over to the party. It's for you, you can't miss it, that's what she'd tell herself. Every year she'd tell herself that, so that every year she wouldn't have to be at home when her brother and his wife paid their yearly visit. They died so long ago, back in the Baron's day, and who even thinks about him anymore? But still they come. They didn't even die in the same year. None of this is how the Night of the Pale is supposed to work. But still, blood calls to blood. And every year, while she sits down in the tents set up around the black pipe, Mina looks across the green at the mill and sees the terrible blue glowing figures moving hand in hand past the windows of her apartment. And she's grateful she has somewhere else to be.
Meanwhile, in the brazen frontier of Osirian, on the far-off continent of Garund,
Wahlquist the Blacktooth walks down into the pit of the Scourge. He is alone, like he is every Night of the Pale. None of the others will join him. None of the others dare join him. Even in this, their sacred gathering spot on this particular night of the year. Too many ghosts. Too many angry ghosts. Too many memories. But the shades do not harm Wahlquist, all because of the Conqueror. The Conqueror ruled in life. The Conqueror rules in death. And Wahlquist is, after all, of the Conqueror's blood. And blood calls to blood. The tribe doesn't know this. They'd likely kill him if they did. But it is the secret reason why Wahlquist can join this annual gathering of the fallen, the great melee of the dead, every year at the passing of the year, and bear witness and listen to the whispers. Truths are spoken amongst the dead, truths that illuminate the past and thus the present in ways that Wahlquist can put to use as shaman. So he marches down into the amphitheater, not a natural amphitheater as it turns out, but an ancient temple fallen into ruin. He learned this from the dead, and he waits for the gathering to begin. He waits for the Conqueror, his grandfather, Old One-Eye, to manifest. And for the Conqueror's son, the one who killed him, to manifest. and for the son of the sun, who died by fratricide to manifest.
Meanwhile, back in Ustalov,
In a small cabin on the edge of the peat bogs that line the Droa River, just below the Albria Woods in southwestern Ustalov, an elderly woman sits under a blanket near the fire, trying to warm the chill out of her 80-year-old bones. Georgetta Vaticus is ready. She welcomes the Night of the Pale this year. It's time. She's lived enough. The last of her close friends passed away this year. Evelyn's grandson, bless his heart, still stops by with food and firewood and a bit of conversation, so she's not totally alone out here in the home her husband built almost 60 years ago. Before he died, and their son was born fatherless, long before the son left for university all those decades ago, and she never heard from him again. Another lifetime ago. Georgetta's heart is failing her, and she's ready to rest, but not before one last visit with Olivia and Danica, both of whom passed this year. This place wasn't their home, but they spent so much time here over the past many years, so she expects she'll see them. Plus, she really seems to draw them, the pale spirits. Olivia and Danica won't be at peace, and they'll likely say difficult things to hear, but she'll be able to see their faces one last time, and that will be a comfort. She's ready. But what she's not ready for is the appearance of a ghost she doesn't recognize. A man, middle-aged, bearded, salt and pepper hair, pale skin, his body covered in a mapwork of razor cuts. He's missing a number of toes and several of his fingers and most of his teeth.
Mother?
He whimpers, and the spirit begins weeping. Blood calls to blood. And once he can get the words out through convulsive sobs, so too weeps Georgetta Vaticus. And the longer his story continues, the more she fears her heart may not last till midnight.
and on the far western edge of the continent of Avestan,
On a cliff at the edge of the Fog-Scar Mountains, overlooking the rough and rocky Varisian Gulf, Zeb Stoicha pulls his pack mule to a halt. His small wagon filled with medicinal supplies, some changes of clothes, a bit of food, some sundries, and a collection of trinkets to dazzle goblin raiders with. His wagon creaks to a halt. This place is not home, but it's the closest thing he has. Many old-school Varisians, the people of the road, travel so much that the idea of home has to take on different associations. Maybe it's a particular wagon, maybe it's a particular collection of people. For Seb, it's a place. A spot where his family is. Far-flung family would gather in reunion every 3 years, at least until the Red Death. Now he's the only Stoicha left. He sits under the great tree next to the old hole where something was dug out of the earth many years back, and he waits for night to fall. And then they appear. Blood calls to blood. It's different combinations every year, sometimes his parents, sometimes his aunts or uncles, brothers and sisters, cousins. They've all appeared at one point or another. All but one. And they rail at him. They blame him for abandoning them, but he clutches his charms so they cannot hurt him. And he takes their abuse. He internalizes their recriminations. He takes it all in. Because he deserves it. He wasn't there. And this time, as the year 4718 dies and becomes nothing more than a memory, Seb waits to see if this is the year little Victor will finally appear to curse him.
and to close the book on tonight's chapter, in a small fishing village on the western shore of Lake Encarthen, tonight, this last night of the year, the darkness is deep, but the light of the fire is strong. And a young girl who'd grown tired of listening to the adults tell their stories by the fire of people she barely knew, this young girl stands on the beach and pokes at rocks with a stick. It's a good stick. It's a quality stick. It's great for poking and for pointing. Probably throwing. She's not sure. She hasn't tried it yet, but just wait till she does. She's overturning rocks with her amazing stick, when a dull glint catches her eye further down the beach. She skips ahead in her winter boots, and she's delighted by what she finds. It's a patchwork figure made of leather and cloth, sewn together a little clumsily but sturdily enough by red thread. Shiny little buttons for eyes, and a strange clockwork wand stitched to its right hand. It's a doll. It's a doll. She doesn't recognize it. No one worships Shaylin here, so she has absolutely no context for what she's looking at, but she loves it at once. Yes, it's a little dirty. Yes, it's a little faded and worn. Yes, it's absolutely soggy. But it's hers now. She takes the Zonzon in her tiny hands and races back. She's already forgotten her amazing stick, and she races back to the fire to start drying it out. By the time the morning comes and the new year begins, this little doll will begin a brand new life. The girl curls up next to her mom by the fire, hugs her legs, and listens in as old Snakeweed, as they call him, strums his guitar and plays one last song before everyone heads off to bed to hide from their ghosts. And the lyrics that traveled to this world from another, that traveled here through the dreaming, in fact, just like a certain book did. One bound in leather, cured from the faces of men and women screaming eternally in agony. The lyrics that Snakeweed sings soar into the night sky and into the ether as we close the book on the year 4718.
When you're standing at a crossroads, you cannot comprehend, just remember, death is not the end. When all your dreams have vanished and you fear what's up the bend, remember that death is not the end.
We'll see you next week. Dark Nexus is produced by Plug and Hum Productions. This podcast uses trademarks and/or copyrights owned by Paizo Incorporated, used under Paizo's fan content policy. This podcast is not published, endorsed, or specifically approved by Paizo. For more information about Paizo Inc. and Paizo products, please visit paizo.com. That's Paizo.com. Dark Nexus uses music and soundscapes by Syrinscape. Check them out at Syrinscape.com. That's Syrinscape.com. Opening and closing themes, along with additional music composed by Rob Kauzlaric. Artwork for Dark Nexus is by Matt Wahlquist. And thanks to DMCP, Richard and Ari, Paul and Shannon, Scotty, Jason, Jess, Joe, Chelsea, Matt, Dave, Derek, Darren, Michaela, J.H., the Biscuit Buddies, and everyone we've gamed with over the years for all the memories and inspiration.
You know what we're fighting here? We're fighting a couple 2-3 tigers.
Heyo.
Is that a reference to something?
No, it's just, it's like the Chicago 3, but it's a couple
Tree.
2-3 tigers.
Yeah,
a couple 2-3 tigers over by there.
Oh, tree tigers.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for taking the time to explain it to
That's
me.
the sign of a good joke.